I'm Kim, and I'm married to an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Kim. My name is Chris, and I am an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
We just, 20 minutes ago, got the office finally situated where it needs to be, which is wild. We're in a new house, so you guys are probably noticing that things look different. A lot of chaos at the moment. Sorry for last week's episode. It was not that great, and it was only 17 minutes long, but it felt a lot longer when I was recording it.
Because it was you talking about yourself.
This is me talking about myself, trying to figure shit out. It was not fun. I had a dream, not last night, but the night before, and it felt super real because we were just walking through the house, and you were like, "Oh, maybe one day you'll be able to handle a drink," and I was like, "Never, never, never, never."
Well, that's weird.
Yeah, it was super weird because there was nothing like crazy about it. It was just a conversation. Dreams are stupid. But yeah, so it's another reason why we continue to do this is because my brain is still going to continue to try to trick me into making excuses for why it's okay to use.
I still have dreams like that too. That makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why we still do this. This is your AA meeting.
This is my AA meeting. We have a guest today, and
do you want me to tell my story of what happened this last week?
What happened last week?
No, this last week.
Oh yeah.
I got ran over by a car, basically. Someone that is in my life that they say they're not using. I can't tell. Maybe they're not. But they also haven't been very honest with me about that. Was very odd, came to help me paint, very tired-ish, not quite there all the way. I got out of the vehicle because I was going to drive their vehicle, and their vehicle ended up going backwards down our driveway with me in the door.
So, yeah, with the door open, you mean?
Yeah,
right?
The door was open, and I was standing in the driveway, and it was coming down at me, and the door was...
Right, so the door is pushing you down the driveway.
Yeah, into my back.
Oh, you were turned around?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how did the rest of the day progress?
Oh, I didn't bring it up. At first I was like, you just ran me over with your vehicle. And there was like, no, I didn't. And it was a lot of yelling, put your car in park, put your brakes on. Oh, it is. And then later on, I just didn't bring it up. And then I brought up like, how long have you been sober? And they said, well, before it snowed. But they also went recently on a trip somewhere where the person that they were with drinks a lot. So I asked if, maybe they were drinking there, and they said no. So I don't know. It's hard. It's hard because with you, I feel like if you relapse, you'd be honest and tell me, where this person hasn't been honest about really anything. So it's hard.
We would hope that I would be honest.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's hard to know.
I don't know if that person was... I don't think that person was actively intoxicated when that all happened. I don't know if they were coming off or if they were... Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if they were sluggish from the night before or something.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I get what you mean.
But I also now haven't heard from that person in over 24 hours. When I was texting them about helping me paint this weekend, and on Facebook you can see when they were last active, if they have that, and they haven't been active for a while, so I'm a little concerned. But
well, I mean, they're a little older too, so
yeah,
it might just be that they're not using that app.
No, they use it all the time.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, okay.
We have a guest today, and I mean, I've been excited, and I always feel weird saying I'm excited that someone's here on this show, because it's like I want to highlight stories, but I don't want it to seem like oh, cool, great content coming up here. So it's just nice that you're willing to come on here and kind of talk about the stuff that you've been through. So what do you prefer to go by?
Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe, we've known each other for
a very long time.
15 years at least.
I'd say more than that probably, but yeah.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure it out, like
Next year's my 15-year graduation.
Oh, fuck. Then,
So it's
yeah.
been more than that.
God
And that's
damn.
weird to say.
That is wild. So, yeah, we grew up in the same town, saw a lot of the same shit. Tell me what childhood was like for you. Like, did you guys live in Becker your whole life, or were you?
No, I grew up in Minneapolis for the first 12 years of my life, and then we moved to Becker in 2000. April Fool's Day, actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Okay.
He's older.
And your parents were together the whole time, or no?
Yeah. My
Yes.
entire life, they were together.
Okay. And what was that relationship like? Like, how were your parents together when you were growing up?
Terrible. Like, they always fought. That's all I remember of them is, like, fighting. So, if they were even home together. So,
Oh,
they both
wow.
worked a lot.
Okay. And did substance seem to play a role in any of that when you were growing up?
Absolutely. They were both, like, alcoholics, and they actually grew marijuana in the house, and they were often doing that kind of stuff. So, they did way more than that, though, too.
I mean, so do you remember, like, when you kind of grasped what was going on?
Probably more after we had already moved and like things had kind of calmed down. My mom stopped drinking when we moved to Becker, and I want to say like after all that, when I looked back, I was like, that was not right. That was not normal.
It's something that we talk about on here a lot too, is like you don't realize how wild of a situation you were in until you tell somebody else and they're like, what are you talking about? My parents didn't do anything remotely close to that. And you're like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, like I look back at old pictures, and pretty much every picture where you can see our kitchen table, it's just like covered. There's no space. It's just beer bottles everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Jesus. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of how to. So, your views on substance when you were growing up, like, were you a part of the youth group? Like,
the cult?
yeah.
Yes, I went to the cult a couple times. Yeah, no, I don't know. Growing up, I was absolutely against it. I was like, I'm never going to drink. I'm never going to smoke. I'm never going to do drugs. I was super hardcore straight edge before I even knew what straight edge was. And then I think in high school, I like started to experiment a bit more and like was like, well, I can't hate something if I've never tried it, you know? So even though I've watched it destroy people, it didn't matter. Like I was like, I should at least, you know, like what is it all about? Why are these people so into it?
Yeah.
So
Well, and we were in similar groups where we would see each other a lot, and one thing that kind of binded us all was the mental health stuff that we were all going through. Not everybody grasped what was happening, and it was called being emo.
yeah.
When really, like, we all had like either severe anxiety or depression and all that stuff. So like when you did start to drink, did you feel that it heightened or quelled any of those feelings? Does that make sense?
At first, like I feel like I was literally just doing it to fit in. Like people would go to the football games and drink at the football games, so I would do it. I didn't really even I don't know if I felt anything or if I even noticed what was happening, but I just did it because all my friends were doing it, and I was like, you know, I'll try it. And it was usually like spiked with Mountain Dew, and I love Mountain Dew, so I was like, hey, that's fine.
And I mean, yeah, obviously high school, the weed always makes its way in there and changes people's disposition. And something like in high school, weed is either glorified or you're made to be a loser. And I feel like in Becker, at least like with my class, like weed made us cooler. And the fact that we could get weed for people was the big thing. And like, so it gave you like this sense of confidence on top of that. Like people perceived my friends and I as like cooler and chill and this and that. And like, I seem to be the only one that was like having panic attacks when I was smoking weed, or like smoking way too much because I was way too depressed, and like all of these things. And it's crazy to think the school district now has such a better grip on mental health stuff than when we were going to school. And it sucks that like do you remember, was his name Pete? That counselor, he was supposed to be like
I never went to the counselor once, which I definitely should have been going to the counselor, but I never went once.
Really?
Yeah.
I think though now, like we're just learning more about mental health, so it's more in schools. Like they contract with companies where those companies bring actual therapists into the schools.
I know where I work, they do that. Like,
Yeah.
we have community-based people who go into schools. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with like suicides. You know, I mean, back when I was in high school, like if a suicide happened, they didn't have like a crisis team come talk to people. They kind of didn't really know what to do. Or now, like they'll have like the crisis team come out and talk with people and open their doors up for people to be able to talk.
I gotcha. Okay.
Let's go. What was it that did your mom make the decision to stop drinking when she moved to Becker, or did something happen, or did they move? Like, I was just interested about that because you said when she moved here, she
Oh,
quit
right.
drinking.
I honestly don't know what her reasoning behind it was. I know that religion became a bigger part of her life
Okay.
when we moved. Getting away from the cities was really important to her. So, yeah. I don't know exactly what her like mind frame was as far as quitting drinking. She pretty much cold turkey quit drinking and smoking. So
Wow.
Did you? But I mean, like to your point, like did she convey anything to you guys as to why she would want to stop, or did
No.
it seem like she just all of a sudden was done with it?
honestly, from my point of view, all I knew is one day she just stopped. Like when we moved, she stopped.
Wow.
Okay.
And I know, like, when I was younger, I was like, oh, she just doesn't want to, like, mess up the new house, so she doesn't smoke in the house or whatever. But it really just became, like she just never smoked anymore.
Okay.
So, and we got a new car when we moved. And again, I thought it was like, oh, she doesn't want to smoke in the car, you know?
And it's too cold to smoke outside.
Right.
So that, yeah.
So I was like, I thought maybe those were part of the decision, but I think a lot of it was just, she was just turning over a new leaf in life kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Wow.
new town, new, chapter. Let's get rid of the things that, okay.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. You want to pull that just a smidge closer to you. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay. That's a good point. So to bring it back to that, so your mom stops. Was that a point of contention then with your dad? Like, would you hear them argue about how he is still drinking?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Like my mom would like freak out on my dad because he would black out at a bar and my brother and my mom had to go pick him up and stuff like that. So, yeah.
It's so fucking rough.
And was he still drinking in the house then, even though mom wasn't drinking?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
He never stopped drinking. Like I actually asked him recently and he was like, "Yeah, I drink at least a beer every day." I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, that's not normal."
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to some people it's normal. It becomes unnormal when somebody it's not that I have a beer every day. It's the at least.
Right.
So like, when it's like I have to have at least one. Whereas somebody's like, yeah, I just one after work, and then I'm done and everything's fine.
Right.
Sorry, I keep slouching in my chair, and I just realized I was sliding. Keep going, Kim Duke.
Well, you're just like all over the place.
I know. So with,
That's my brain,
But
though,
with the parent thing though, because I'm glad you brought it back to that. What was? Is your brother older or younger?
He's older.
She said
He's
older.
older. Okay.
Did he move? How old was he when you guys moved here then? Was he still like in high
He
school?
was 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. Did your mom like ever threaten to take you guys away?
no,
Okay.
nothing like that. No.
No. They
My mom didn't even really like. She always said she was too good of a Christian woman to divorce. So, like, it was never anything like that. It was just they were just gonna fight worse. It was never gonna be like a breaking point. It was just they were just gonna fight worse. So,
And did you witness any of it then?
oh, all the time.
Yeah, okay.
It was like they never got physical as
No.
far as I knew, but
Yeah.
like constant yelling and screaming.
Okay.
So,
And then like other substances, mom quit all that stuff too, right?
I think so. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
she might have smoked weed every now and then, but she was also like going through cancer, so
Okay.
like that could have been part of that. I don't know if it was like
That was
she
my
just
next
enjoyed
question.
it.
When did that start?
I think she got her first cancer diagnosis in like 2001.
Holy shit.
So like
Wow.
really shortly after, because I remember she always told it like she quit smoking, and almost a year to the day she went in because she thought she was having heart problems, but they were like, no, your heart's fine, but you have lung cancer. So like, and she was like, so
Jesus.
then she always joked and was like to all of her friends, she was like, never quit smoking because you'll get lung cancer. Because she was like, I was trying to like prevent that, you know, like
Yeah.
she wanted to make sure her health was okay, but
Did Dad smoke?
all the time he still does. So
Even when she was going through her treatments and everything?
yeah, not in the house or anything. Like
No.
that was forbidden when we moved anyway. So,
Yeah.
but he did.
I'm sure
quit.
there was some contention there where she's like, I have lung cancer and you are still, you know.
Yeah, he did quit for like, I want to say it was a couple years, maybe even. But
Okay.
then, when I think about that, like I think maybe he didn't really quit. He just, you know, hid
Said
it well
it, yeah,
enough,
yeah.
so that he didn't hear the fight at home about
Right.
Yeah.
it. So
I mean, so what if you're willing to share, like what do you know now of your mental health?
well, I mean, I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety and BED, like I was talking to you before, binge eating disorder.
Oh.
I don't have any other diagnoses, but I definitely have like ideas of that. I know that there's more there. I just never had testing done or anything like
Sure.
that. But and I hate to self-diagnose because that's terrible. But when you fit a lot of the symptoms and everything, like you can have an idea.
Well, I think, and I've told you this before, like knowledge is a curse if you choose to do nothing with it.
Right.
And so like for me, like, and this is only within the last like 6 months, that as I learn stuff now, I go, okay, so what does that mean that I need to do? And it's not that I'm perfect now. Like I still have,
absolutely not.
yeah, I still have slip ups. These microphones
We're a
are,
very impulsive, manic purchase.
yeah.
yeah.
So
I suffer from that too, where like I will just go on a shopping spree. Amazon is the devil. I need to take the face lock off of my phone because that's how I pay. With
Oh,
things.
wow.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's how
I'll
I-
just be laying in bed and be like, I just spent $100. Cool.
Yeah.
So definitely have some impulse control there too. So
yeah, but, so I mean that, like, but yeah, I'm trying, and it's tough now, like with fucking pandemic going on and everything. But so, how old were you when you started to notice like that kind of sinking feeling or trapped feeling?
honestly, looking back, it was a lot earlier than I when I actually realized what that feeling was.
Okay.
But like I remember when I was like 6, I would tell my parents I was going to kill myself.
Wow.
And like I just thought that was normal. I look back now and I'm just like, dude, people don't say that when they're 6 years old, you know? Like no 6-year-old has a reason to want to do that, really. So
Right. And I mean, was there anything that made it better?
medication now, but
But I mean, when you were younger, like when did you first start taking medication?
not till I was like in my 20s.
Okay. Yeah.
When I was younger, just not being home helped.
Oh.
Like I would just go find my friends and hang out with them and kind of like just
Kind of,
ignore my
yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like if there's like consistent aggression, kind of like the home life that she had, can that turn into trauma? Does that make sense? Like,
Well, experiencing the things you did as a child, yeah, that can be trauma.
why are you getting mad at me? Don't be mad.
Trauma comes
I'm
in
not
a
being
lot of
mad,
different
yeah,
like forms.
yeah.
yeah. So I'm, and that's what I'm trying to
So
figure
you're
out.
trying to diagnose her with PTSD.
Well,
I feel like that's where you're going. No.
I'm saying if you're experiencing trauma at home,
Yeah.
removing yourself from that situation, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
It doesn't erase the trauma though. Like,
No.
right.
like it was pretty traumatic knowing I had to go back home to it too.
Yep.
So like I would try to spend all my time with my friends. Like I would just leave and not come home for the whole day,
Yeah.
almost every day. So
But you can vividly remember like those beer, all those beer bottles and stuff on the, like, that's a part of
Well,
trauma.
No, honestly, I can't remember much of my childhood at all, which is why I know I have trauma, because my therapist has told me that.
Yeah.
But looking back at pictures, that's when I see all that. I'm just like, okay. Like,
that's a lot of my childhood too. Like certain traumatic events, I can't remember certain things. And that's where you have some type of trauma because you've repressed it so far that even like sometimes therapy, you still can't bring it back out. Like it just takes so much work. And then you almost don't want to bring it back out because you don't want to really, like, that's why a lot of people do EMDR is to try and relive that trauma and cope with it. And it's like, I don't want to go through all that. It works. People say it works great, but
I've considered doing that because, like, honestly, I don't remember any of my childhood almost.
Yeah.
Like, every story or like every memory I have is basically a story that someone else told.
or looking at a picture and
Yeah.
you feel like you
I'm
remember
like,
it.
oh, I can kind of like place myself there, but it's never like a memory that I brought up.
Yeah. And that's hard too, especially when you're around, like, it's hard for me because Chris has like this crazy memory of his childhood. Like I listened to his podcast with his brothers and it's like, how can they remember things from when they're 5 and 6? Like I don't really, like I remember 3rd grade, I had stomach ulcers because I was under a lot of stress and I can kind of remember the stressful things going on, but I don't remember so much that it's like, how can they remember all these events, but I can't remember anything?
Well, and that's the other part of anxiety too, though, is like the shit things just replay in your head. So I think that's part of why my memory is good in certain regards, is because
But
I have, like,
it's
these
not even
snaps.
just like the anxious things you remember. You remember like the most random memories where I'm like, how would he even remember that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Some of that I do remember, like really random stuff. Like I remember I would always run home to watch WWF when it was still WWF wrestling, and I would sit in front of the TV with my hands in my head, or my head in my hands, and just like stare up at the TV. And I remember stuff like that, and like very little random stuff that's super insignificant. Like I don't remember a whole lot of like significant events.
Oh, okay.
in my
Interesting.
childhood. So,
Okay.
and it's super sporadic. Like I couldn't tell you the years or how old I was when those things were happening, but
Okay.
Where do we go next? Okay. So, I mean, yeah, you're this tumultuous relationship plus your mom. Did she go into remission then?
So she had she did chemo, I think, and she had 2/3 of one of her lungs removed, and then she was good for like good. She couldn't breathe super well for the longest time, but well, probably ever, but
Yeah.
she was good, cancer free for like 10 years, I want to say. So
I didn't know that you could remove part of your lung.
I didn't either until my mom had it done. Yeah.
Wow. That is fucking wild.
Yeah, I think you can actually function with one lung.
Yeah, you can.
You don't need both of them if one is damaged, you know.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
But you're like, her breathing had always been really shallow, and she couldn't go on a hike ever, or even a walk. Was she
Was she
wasn't,
on
like-
any like supplemental oxygen or anything like that, or just the heart? Yeah.
She hated the idea of being like strapped to something. She didn't want to have an oxygen tank with her, and she didn't want to like do any of that. So she had an inhaler, and so she would work with that, and that was about it. So if she was having issues breathing, she would do her inhaler,
Okay.
and she would try to like work out and walk, but my mom was a bigger lady, and like that already added struggle to working out. So then just, only having one functioning lung
Yeah.
made that bad too.
So when did so she was diagnosed with cancer again?
She had cancer 3 times. Yeah.
3 times.
So after her lung cancer, she was good for a long time. And then I don't remember exactly what was going on, but she ended up going in and she found out she had uterine cancer.
Ugh.
So she got a full hysterectomy, and she was good again. Like I think she did radiation that time, and she was good for several years. I don't know how long, but she was good. And then they found out she had colon cancer. Because I think her uterine cancer had just spread to her colon. But
Oh, fuck.
so then she had like 8 inches of her colon removed, and she was good again for a couple years. I don't remember when she was diagnosed with having that, but yeah.
Okay, so Jesus. So when you would hear her say that she was diagnosed again, I mean, what is that feeling like?
So the initial one was like terrible because I did not know what that meant. You know, like cancer means death when you hear that. But then after she was good for 10 years, like, and then she was like, oh, I have cancer again. It was scary, but I was like, well, you beat lung cancer. That one's like horrible. So, you know, like you're a fighter. You're going to be fine. And she was. So.
And when you hear uterine, you're like, well, you can get your whole uterus removed and all
Right.
that. As a lung, you can only get so much, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
and then with colon, you're probably like, well, you've got so much of a colon that they can always do like,
Grafts and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, no. And because like by the time she had colon cancer, she had already beaten lung cancer in my eyes and beaten uterine cancer. So I was just like, what's another one? Like, just fucking knock it out, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like by then I was just like, okay, well, I wasn't even scared of her dying from that or anything. So it was just, okay, another procedure. Like, let's get it done.
Wow.
So how was your dad during all of this? Like all the cancer diagnoses and all that? Do you remember anything about that?
Honestly, not so much. Like, he worked a lot, so
Okay.
I don't remember. Like, I know he was bummed and everything, and that's part of the reason why he stopped smoking for a little while was because, you know, my mom had that issue, but
Yeah. And then you said during your childhood, your parents both worked a lot.
yeah.
Was mom still working through all this? Like, would she
Yes.
take time off and during her treatments and work, or was she just kind of muscling through it?
She
and-
kind of just muscled through. She worked a lot. Like, I don't even remember her really taking a lot of time off
Wow.
unless she was actively in the hospital.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but she had a like kind of unconventional job. She was a mobile notary. So she like went
Oh.
house to house and like signed loan documents and had notarized those for people.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's kind of nice then.
I was going to say, I didn't even know that existed. That would have been nice.
yeah, it does exist. She actually asked me if I wanted to do that. She always asked me if I wanted to do that too, and I was just like, I don't know.
Okay.
But
Well, that's good. She was still able to work, I think. And did that kind of help with their arguments where they were working so much they weren't together as much? And
yeah, and I mean, I was at school, and when I was home, I, you know,
yeah,
blaring loud emo music or something, or playing video games with headphones on. So
you tuned it out.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
spent a lot of my time, like my life, learning how to tune it out and just like finding different ways. Or if I heard them yelling, I would just kind of like. When I was younger, I used to scream and like cry and like try to get them to stop. But
Yeah.
as I got older, I was just like, this is just how life is.
This
I
is
guess
how it's
so,
going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back on to discuss the nuances of My Chemical Romance.
You know, I liked them, but they were never my favorite band.
Okay, well, this interview is over.
Right.
And
Nice,
They're
nice
not
talking to you
They're
guys.
not my favorite band either.
Oh! I
They're
don't
not
even
They're
know
not
you.
even in my top 5.
They're not in my top 10.
Jesus Christ.
They might be creeping in there, but definitely not top 5.
I don't know. So I think like I have this thing where the more popular something is, the more I hate it. So like My Chemical Romance was huge, and all my friends would
Yeah.
talk about it, and I was like, they're okay. You know,
Yeah,
like I'm like,
I know. Yeah.
they're whatever.
I liked them like first album when no one knew about them, Taste of Chaos. I'm like, I know all these songs, and then all of a sudden they start getting popular, and I'm like,
Yeah, and I mean, I was ready to pay some good money to go see them when they were going to tour again, and I was like, no, I'm not that much money though. Like,
not top 10 money.
nope.
When Gerard kissed Burt McCracken, though.
It was beautiful.
I loved The Used, like for
The
sure.
Used is my number 1 favorite band.
They're not my favorite, but again, they're probably in my top 5 when I like emo bands.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
who's no,
Number 1 is Motion City Soundtrack, like Minnesota, man. Gotta
Yeah,
represent.
they're not even my top 50.
Really? Oh, I love
I
him.
only- the
He also,
one.
if you haven't listened to the music, like Justin Courtney Pierre, he like is super like into mental health, and his lyrics are very. They seem strange and like random and stuff, but a lot of it is very like. It kind of hits home as far as mental health goes.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
yeah,
I thought you were going to say Spill Canvas is your number 1.
they are my number 2.
Okay.
That's funny. Okay, so go.
When did you kind of notice that your dad had a problem?
Well, no, hold on.
You were just like taking too long.
I
to
know.
think out.
But remember, I can edit these things.
It's true.
So be nicer. There was something in you where when you would start relationships, there was something that could go wrong. It seemed like in all of them, and I'm curious as to like, Did you notice a pattern in the partners that you would choose and was it in the back of your mind that like probably not going to work out? But
I mean, like my self-esteem always told me it wasn't going to work out. I don't know if it was anything like I didn't pick any specific people. My first boyfriend ever didn't drink or do anything like that. I feel like I probably picked emotionally unavailable people.
ah,
And I don't know like what that stems from completely, but yeah, that was kind of my big thing is like people who like have no depth as far as communication of emotions and like feelings.
well, and that's a trait in addicts is like this. I don't know if disassociate is the right word, but we like separate ourselves from having like we find every excuse and explanation possible to prove that we don't have a problem. And so when we have this wall up, it's you become very emotionless. Like Kim could speak to that like in the ways that I would gaslight her and make her feel like she was crazy for thinking that I had a problem and somehow turn it around on her.
You were like that before your addiction, though. You'd have moments where you made maybe you've just had this kind of addictive personality forever, but like when we were first dating and you would do things, you would switch it around and make it seem like it was all my fault.
Yeah, well, I would say that being like a sex and love addict at that point, like sex and love addict and having the codependency issues.
Yeah.
So it just breeds destruction. Like I say it all the time. I'm insanely lucky that I have a functioning family right now. Like all signs point to me being homeless, basically. Like it's fucking wild. So I'm lucky in that regard. But to your situation, like it makes sense that whole not being emotionally available because you have to be kind of aggressive to make sure that nobody takes this thing away from you.
So for me, I think it was like I was trying to find a balance because I'm like super emotional.
I was talking more like your dad.
Oh, okay.
So like the stance that you have to have in order to keep your addiction, to keep the thing that you definitely don't have a problem, you just really enjoy it. And who are these people to try and make me feel like the thing that I enjoy can't be a part of my life anymore? Does that make sense?
Not really. Like I don't know where you were going. Like where
you
that
just
started.
went from like her relationships all the way to her dad. That like makes
because
no sense.
you were saying people who are emotionally unavailable were who you gravitated towards.
Right.
Was your dad emotionally available then?
I don't know. I don't think so. No. Like,
okay, so
they're
that's
both
the
pretty
connection
close.
that I was trying to make.
Try
Was
and make it clearer because we were
Deborah, be nicer. You come across as a straight dick sometimes on the microphone. At least smile when you. I do. I struggle with connecting the dots, so just be patient.
It'll come full circle eventually.
Give me some goldfish, and that'll make sense eventually. So that's what I was trying to get around to was like what you're describing makes sense based on the history because, and I'm trying to explain what I'm assuming your dad was going through, which was when you don't accept what's in front of you. John Cleese has this saying, which is that stupid people lack the capacity to recognize that they're stupid. And what that's saying, it's obviously that's like really aggressive, but what it's saying is when you're in the throes of anything, like if you're so deeply involved in something, you more than likely lack the capacity to realize that you're so heavily invested in this thing and other people see it. So with addiction, most addicts lack the capacity to truly recognize their addiction until they hit like a rock bottom or something.
Right.
So when you're going through that, and how old is your dad?
67, I think.
Okay. So yeah, you've got the whole like men are expected to be
Right, like there's no emotion. You don't get to show emotion.
My dad's
and
the
stuff
same
like that,
way.
yeah.
My dad's 67 as well, and it's like you don't show emotion. They don't like their age too. They don't understand mental health very much. It's because they always are like, you just get over it. Put your pants on, get over it. And my dad's very much the same way. Like when I was going through mental health things when I was in high school, like I was hospitalized, came out, and he goes, "Did you learn your lesson?"
I could see my parents doing that if that had ever happened to me, but they often like downplayed my mental health.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Oh, like you're fine. Just like buck
Get
up."
over
buck
it.
up was their favorite thing
Yeah.
to say to me. Buck up.
Yeah, my dad's, it was
So,
get over it. Just
yeah.
get over it. Whatever.
So addiction is a sign of weakness, and admitting to that is like, no, I'm not weak. I have a job. I have a family. Bah, 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 bah.
Right.
I don't have this weakness that you guys are trying to put onto me.
Right.
I like especially noticed that in the older.
Yeah.
Well, and like my dad grew up with depression age parents, and like my dad's dad was in the military, and like you know, like there was military stuff too, which is also like, I think it's getting better now, but it used to be like super toxic as far as like masculinity goes, and like just you had to be like strong and, you know, couldn't show emotions or feelings and
Yep.
stuff like that. And it like really reinforced what society was already kind of pushing back then, and like
Yeah.
it just like doubled down on it.
Yeah,
So,
it's a weird one to try and. I gotcha.
yeah.
It's like saying I edited it.
Right.
So I mean, because obviously we're here to talk about like the stuff that the way that addiction has affected you, but something that is equally as important to us is the mental health stuff. So the things that you've been through and seeing what you're trying to accomplish now, I want to highlight that too. So like, so people don't think that you're just somebody coming in and complaining about dad drinks too much. Like you've been through a lot of shit, and I've never known you to be malicious or shitty in any way. So to like get knocked down so many times and continue to get back up, and then to be so dedicated to your family where people give up, like especially with older parents, they'll be like, yeah, you know what, he's never going to change, so fuck it. So I mean, when did you move out, and when were you living on your own?
I moved out a couple times, and then I moved back in and stuff like that. But I think originally I was like 20 when I moved out the first time. So
Okay.
I did stick around for a while, but as soon as I graduated high school, well, even when I was in high school, I got a job right away, and I was just at work a lot, or else I was out with friends. And I do have my own sort of addictive personality as well. Because when I was in my early 20s and stuff like that, I was drinking a lot, pretty heavily, and like, but I realized what I was doing, and like I was drinking to the point of blacking out almost every time I would drink. And I didn't like that, and I didn't like the person I was, so I just stopped. And I recognized that it could have been a problem if I just were to continue. So,
And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but and we were talking about it before, which is food addiction, and like how it's controversial and it's tough to diagnose and all these things. But like, at what point did you realize that you had a problem in that regard?
well, probably like 15 is when I realized it, but I didn't like do anything about it, you know, like I was like, oh, like I just need to go on a diet or something like that, you know. It was never like I didn't know it was a problem until it was like more diagnosed, and I had read more about it, and after I had figured out exactly what it was that I was doing. So,
And I think binge eating disorder hasn't really been talked about in like more so the last 5-10 years.
right.
Because
Oh,
before
wow, it's
like
that new.
because before it was
bulimia,
bulimia
and
and
anorexia.
anorexia were the two eating disorders.
Right.
And there was almost a stigma against binge eating disorder. It's like you're choosing to just eat all
Right.
that food. But it's like now what we've learned is there's a comfort in eating that much food. No one purposely eats themselves till they're sick. Like
Right.
who, like we don't, but like we're not telling a bulimic you're making yourself puke to the point you're getting sick. That's an issue. But now with binge, no, let me finish.
Sorry.
With binge eating disorder, it's a lot of around emotions. So everyone's like, well, you're just an emotional eater. That's why you're eating so much. But it's like, it's a disorder where
Right.
you start that eating and you get uncomfortably, like you get sick, but you almost can't stop.
Right.
But it is, I wonder when because I feel like it's last 5-10 years. It's really been kind of out in the forefront.
Right. I think I got diagnosed 4 years ago.
Okay.
So like it's pretty recent in my life.
Yeah.
But I think I've suffered from it for my whole life. And a lot of times when I first realized I had it, I kind of thought maybe it was like a conditional thing. Because growing up, like you don't waste food. Like you clean your plate.
And I think that's that age
yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like there's seconds. And like if you get seconds, you got to clean that plate too. Like you don't waste food. So I think part of it, like I thought it was conditional. And it might have been, like part of it might have been.
Yeah.
But it was also the emotional, like due to depression or anxiety or whatever, like
Oh yeah.
so
Well, and from the little that I've read on it too is you fuck up your reward system because food is associated with dopamine because you need it to survive. But the more that you introduce, and things like MSG fuck up your reward system too.
and that's the thing that's really hard about like binge eating disorder, because how do you tell somebody like so like you can't just tell somebody, you can tell an alcoholic to stop drinking alcohol, you can't tell somebody to stop eating food. People need to eat food to live, so like it's hard to like get somebody
That's
who
true.
does suffer from that to like find
Wow.
that balance.
That's
I
such a
didn't
good
even-
point.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine if I went through treatment and everything and they were like, okay, so now you're going to have one beer a day.
Right.
Just try to keep it under control.
Or 5 small beers a day.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Portion
So,
your beers.
like you can never not eat.
Yeah.
So it's just about finding that like
Balance
control.
and
Yeah.
the control. But and then when you have those emotional moments where then you have the efforts where it's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you have a bad day, we talk about that too. Like grabbing a candy bar because you're like, I'm so fucking pissed right now. I need a caramello.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Like I experience that all the time, either really high like anger or like stress or like really low depression. Like, oh, I know it's going to help.
Yeah.
Just food.
Yeah.
So,
And
and it's
then
never
you-
good food. It's never like,
Nope.
I'm going to reach for the celery. No,
Yeah.
it's,
And then you go through
I
that
need a
cycle.
whole fucking pizza.
Yeah.
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 So.
Mine's sweets.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go through that cycle, then you get more depressed because you get angry at yourself. What did I just do? And then you go through that whole cycle and then you keep eating because you're like, well, I already effed it up. I already ate that whole pizza. I'm a piece of shit. I'm just going to keep eating.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely need to talk. I want to do like a whole. We're gonna have a professional on who deals with food addiction, which I'm super psyched that she found us. But to get back to like, so you're dealing with tumultuous family life. You have mental health stuff that technology or society just hasn't caught up to what the fuck we're dealing with yet. Your mom keeps going in and out of remission. I mean, how what did you do to cope with that stuff?
I don't think I did. Like, I don't think I ever like fully accepted it and like coped with it. I think I just kind of like ignored it, and that didn't help.
Because
at
now
all.
as an adult, you're trying to cope with it all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it's all catching up to me, and I'm dealing with it now, which sucks because
Yeah.
it's a lot that you like, if you just compact it all into one thing and then like try to deal with it at once instead of, had I been to a therapist growing up or something like that, like I could have, addressed it all then, but
Yeah.
now it's like, here's everything, deal with it.
Well, yeah, and you have responsibilities as an adult, as a living in an apartment. Like there's all the bills and shit. Like it sucks trying to figure yourself out to just be normal, quote unquote. And all the real world stuff. Like when we were in treatment, there was all like we're getting better, right? Things are going good, but as soon as we leave here, the world didn't stop.
Right.
The bills didn't stop coming. There's going to be so much shit to have to deal with afterwards. It would have been nice. Yeah, for sure.
Right, and all the things like for you, I'm sure you have friends who drink, so like there's triggers all around you that could like eventually cause you to, even no matter how much progress you make, there's still always something that could just drag you right back. So
Yeah.
like in dealing with that and learning how to cope with that is a big part of, you know, healing as well. So
Yeah, the first house I went to after the like pandemic and everything had kind of chilled out, we had agreed to, there was one friend that we were willing to go see, which was Alex and Caitlin. And the first time I go over there, there's a giant jug of Tito's vodka on top of their fridge, and like they're talking, but all I can do is stare at that. And I'm like, oh, I remember the copper lid and this is fucking wild.
right.
But
Yeah.
that's, man, so intense. Sometimes I just need a second to kind of like process. Because if you're a listener, you can pause it. But like sometimes
This
it's
is
just
happening.
a lot to process. Because you're such a chill individual. Like I would say that anybody that knows you, you let us know as much as you're willing to let us know. But I would say like acquaintances were just like, yeah, she's super chill. And
Honestly, the last like 5 or so years, I'm a completely open book. Like even with people who don't know me that well, like
Oh.
I'm very like a strong advocate for mental health, and I think the more you talk about it, the less stigmatized it is, and the more
Agreed.
you can like work on healing for yourself as well. So like I'm very open. If somebody I don't know very well asks me about it, I'm gonna tell them because it's part of my life. You know, like it doesn't need to be a secret. Like
well, that's great, man.
If someone asked you about your dogs, you'd be honest about your dogs and tell
Right.
them all about your dogs.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to get back to the addiction part. Like, when did you kind of notice your dad had a problem? Like, was it after you moved out and came back and that kind of stuff? Or was it always there? And then the older you got, you're like, okay, it's really a problem.
So I don't think I realized it was a problem until after my mom passed away, and then like
Okay.
shit just hit the fan, and like he retired and decided to just live his true life, is what I've kind of like noticed it is.
And how long has it been since your mom passed away?
She passed away May 1st, 2019.
Okay.
So not too long. It's
No.
been almost 2 years, or I guess a year and a half now. So.
Okay.
I remember I actually like went to one of Chris's comedy shows right after it happened, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Coping? I don't know."
Yeah. Yeah. And like, did your dad's drinking get worse after she passed away, or?
I think it got worse after he retired.
Okay.
It wasn't so much her passing away. Her passing away like definitely let him kind of. My mom kind of was controlling, and she made him limit it a little bit, but he finally just like was free to do whatever he wanted. And once he retired, he was completely free because he didn't have to
Yeah.
wake up in the morning to go to work, so he
Oh.
could just drink himself into a stupor every night if he wanted. So
That's kind of what he was doing at that point.
was still is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long has he been retired for?
A year.
Okay.
Now. So he retired October 31st, Halloween last year.
I mean, that's a really, really, really common thing, and I don't know that we've ever said it on here, but like retirees, a lot of them end up. So I think that's why there was such an age range. There was a really big gap. There weren't a lot of 40-year-olds in there. It was like 18 to 35, and then boom,
50
Over
and up.
60 and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, these people who were retired and had all this free time and would drink because they were like, there's no shame associated with it anymore.
Right.
Like it's not like, oh, it's a Tuesday, I can't fucking drink, I got to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So when the shame is lifted and you don't realize that you have a problem, it just gets 10 times worse.
Right. And that's when I noticed it, is like, that's when I really like was like, okay, he needs some help or something. And I didn't know I still don't know how to completely help him, because he's kind of got to help himself a little bit too, I think.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that are kind of going on where you're like, this is a problem?
Oh, the big one is like drinking and driving. Like that's where him and I get into huge fights because I'm fine if people drink, like that's most people drink, I want to say. But the fact that you can't even like go out and not drink and you want to drive home, that's like.
And you can't reason, obviously. With
Right.
them.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. No.
Like intoxicated drunky, like drinking, driving, that kind of.
Yeah. And his favorite thing is, I'm not that bad.
I'm not that bad.
I'm like, the fact that you put that in there is a problem.
Yeah.
Like, if you're any amount of bad, you shouldn't be driving.
Yeah. And he like obviously doesn't rationalize with you about that.
Or he's also, he likes to think that he's good at drunk driving.
Oh.
That's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
And
I've
that's
been doing
interesting
it so long, I'm good at it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's great.
But at the same time, your reaction time is a lot less than a regular person, but they don't realize that. They've just gotten lucky this far.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of perceived good. Like really, it's just that no one's noticed that you're doing it. The second that somebody notices that you're doing it, it's like you're not good at it.
Right.
Like so, I hate that when people say like I was the designated drunk driver. It's like you just are getting lucky that there have not been police around, and that nobody noticing you driving has called the police or anything like that. Like you're not good at it. Stop it.
So how did he do when the pandemic started and he couldn't go out and drink?
Oh, he still did. He'd just go to friends' houses and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And once bars opened up, he was back in bars immediately. So
Yeah. And now with the 4 weeks of no bars, is he just now hanging out with friends? Or?
Haven't talked to him in a few days, but he went and saw one of his friends not that long ago too, or yesterday I think. Okay. So yeah, I try to like until I know how to approach the situation better, like because it's just super toxic right now. Like it's just me screaming at him, which does not help. So until I know how to address things better, I kind of just stay away.
How much do you think he drinks on average a day?
Oh my god. I don't know. I honestly don't know because he'll go from bar to bar and he'll have a couple drinks at each bar and then he'll go to his friend's house and have a couple drinks there and then he'll come home and drink beer. So honestly, I couldn't even tell you.
Well, and when an addict picks up on the fact that if there's evidence around that shows how much they've drank, they start to figure out how to hide it. So even if you saw a 24 pack in the garage, there could be a liter of vodka in the closet. Right. There could be, and even though, I mean, are you guys still living together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you had told me to move.
Yeah.
And still working on that, but.
Well, it's tough. I get that. Like, it's not easy.
Especially because financially, this is the smartest place for me to be.
Yeah.
Because the house is paid off and like it's easy to live there. All my stuff is already there. So like, do I want to go and find an apartment to pay $900 in rent, or do I want to stay at a place where I don't have to pay that much in rent?
Yeah. Did you save up to move to Hawaii?
I did, but then I ended up building up some debt, and I just paid it off with the money that I had saved for Hawaii anyway. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Getting rid of that debt, that's fucking huge relief.
Well, that's my thing. I go into debt and then I pay it off, and then I go into debt, and it's a cycle.
Yeah,
it's a fun time.
We hear you.
Yeah, we're right there with you.
We're underneath a lot of
debt.
You
are sitting in a house built on debt right now.
Yeah.
So what was your first conversation with your dad like when you were like, I think you have a problem? Like, how did that go down? Do you remember at all?
Well, we've had so many that I don't know when the first one was, but I know his like go-to response is I'm having fun. I'm just having fun. And I'll be like, well, your fun is hurting people. And he's like, I don't care. I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to do what I want to do. So.
And this all started during retirement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. And what's your brother's views on everything? Like, do you talk to your brother about his?
Yeah, we talk quite a bit about it, and like he's pissed, but he lives in the cities. So, and he's got his whole family, like he's got a whole family and like his own set of issues and stuff that he's working on. And so it's kind of been left to me to deal with. And he's like, I'm sorry that you have to deal with it. Like he's said that to me many times. He's like, I'm sorry that you're like the front
One
line.
there.
Yeah, the front line of the issue. But
Yeah.
You're
And it's hard because you're trying to depict to that person exactly what's going on. Because I know when we were going through the situation with the person in my life, we had someone frontline there all the time seeing these things. And I would almost like having my own family and not being there. It's like, well, is it really that bad? Like, I didn't try to downplay it, but we also like me being your brother, like we don't see the extent of how bad it is. Like you can tell us how bad it is, and then until you personally see it, you're like, whoa. But it is hard because it's like, well, you're there.
right.
Can you try and figure out how to deal with it?
Well, and my brother he's aware of how bad it is, and his go-to is to just like let my dad self-destruct. Well, not so much self-destruct, but like
Hit his rock bottom, or
force him into a rock bottom. Like my dad's like, call the cops on him, or my brother is like, call the
Yeah.
cops on him. And like his go-to is like, have him get arrested, have him realize the repercussions of the things. And I'm like, well, I don't want it to get to that point.
okay,
I would love for him to be able to take care of it before it gets to that point.
yeah,
But when does it become he's going to kill somebody or himself before that happens, you know?
yeah.
that's that gray line,
Right.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he could get arrested. He could go to jail, sleep overnight, get a DUI. Will that change his views on it? That's what's hard is because, yeah.
What are the stipulations for a wellness check?
You can call wellness check on anybody. If you have concerns about someone, it doesn't mean that they'll go out there. Like the officer needs enough concern to go check on somebody.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've had to deal with that in your role. Yeah.
I've had to call a few times for wellness checks.
Yeah.
I don't think anything, because my dad doesn't do the majority of the stuff at home. Like he just like sleeps it off when he's at home. He doesn't just get drunk at home, because honestly, if he was, I wouldn't care so much because he's not out there driving and, you know, doing all that stuff. Do I want my dad to just be a at-home drunk alcoholic? No, but
But if you had to weigh the two,
Right.
you don't want him out there potentially killing somebody because of his drunk driving
Right.
or himself, like you said.
right.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think he would qualify so much as a wellness check completely, because when he's at home, he's coming down, you know,
Yeah.
like he's getting sober, so that he can do it again the next time.
And what's hard is like bars don't really regulate how much someone's drinking, and if they're getting in a car and leaving, like you would think that they do, but if he's going from bar to bar to bar and then to a friend's house, and it's not like you know what bar he's at where you can call wellness, like he can legally be in a bar drinking.
Right. Well, and like Chris was saying, call the bars that he goes to, and I was like, I'd have to call every bar in the 50-mile radius because he bar hops so much, and he'll go to bars a little bit further away and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's like him being like trying to prove to these bars as well that he doesn't have a problem, you know? Because like if you see, like when I worked at a restaurant and people come in every day, like it's sad. You see these people and you know that they're alcoholics, and like, but when you go to different bars and like, oh, we only see him every couple,
like 4 days,
yeah,
or whatever,
or something like that, then it's like, you know, he just comes out for a drink every now and then. They don't realize that he's doing that at every fucking bar every day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
And what's hard is like forcing people to get help. It's so hard. Like to force someone to get into treatment, they have to be committed. And I don't know how much you've learned about the commitment process through, probably not very much because it's outpatient, but for someone to be committed, like they have to over time show that they're a danger to themselves or others. He hasn't technically gotten a car accident yet. He hasn't done this and that. So they'd be like, well, tell something bad. Like, and the county and the judge can be the people that determine how bad is bad. Like I've seen people where I'm like, I cannot believe this person has not been committed yet. And they're not. And they're not going to go. And then you go through that thing. Like if you force someone into treatment, are they going to get anything out of it?
Right.
Sometimes they do because they need that push. Sometimes it's so hard.
So here's the other shit thing. One DUI. So what is it? 1 out of 7 adults in Minnesota has a DUI. Just fucking
That's
insane.
a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't rember the actual statistic. I should look that up.
That was just the last time that we looked at it, but he's not going to go to prison.
Right. No, I know.
So here's the other thing. It requires X amount of time to be sober, and if he goes into withdrawal, that's a type of rock bottom. To go, why am I sick? Am I actually sick? And like to be able to show them like empirical evidence, like he's going through the shit and he's throwing up and he's sweating and all of those things, to be like, hey,
This is happening because of your
yeah,
addiction.
this is why. And now we need to take you to the hospital to make sure that you don't have a seizure.
Yeah, 1 out of 7 licensed drivers in Minnesota has a DUI.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So, I mean, but I might cut this part out, but what type of phone does he have?
Android.
So you could set up tracking on his phone.
It's funny because we actually used to have that. My mom had tracking on me and my dad just because my mom was a complete worrywart and a controlling person. So when she passed away, it was still on there on his phones, and I could see, because we were all linked together, I could see where he was, and I could tell he was at the bar, and it was driving me nuts. So I had to delete it because I would just get pissed off because I would see that he was at the bar, and I'd be like, he's at the bar again. And it was at first it was the same bar, but now it's starting to become like bar hopping.
So what you could do is go with an officer to the bar, and then when he comes out to the car, just be like, hey, you're gonna have to hand over the keys. And I mean, there's the thing that sucks is like the amount of time that you have to invest into that shit is so grueling. And like, even if he got sober, it doesn't make everything better. Like, he could become insanely resentful, and even though he's sober, he just doesn't want to be around people anymore. Like, sobriety just enables you to handle the shit that's going on in your life
That caused you to get to that, to lean on that addiction or whatever, right?
Yeah. So it just allows you to do it with without what's the fucking mind altering, without any mind altering substance. So you're able to look at it with a clear lens. But it doesn't make everything okay, right, which sucks.
I wonder if he experiences any type of withdrawal symptoms. Like, do you think right shortly after he gets up, he starts drinking?
Oh, yeah. Like, I've seen him as early as, like, 9 a.m.
Yeah,
and
so
he'll
he
have
probably
drinks,
does start. I mean, so what's interesting with people, and I don't know if people know this, but the longer and the more you drink, your obviously we all know dependency levels, but, like, he can be clinically, so 0.08 is what we say sober driving is. He could legally be walking around, talking, able to function at, like, a 0.15, and that's his sober.
Right.
Whereas if I was a 0.15, I would be intoxicated. I've seen people come in over 0.3, some over 0.4s, and they're walking, talking, functioning. I would be intubated in the ICU if I was that amount. But they like go so high where he's like, yeah, I'm sober, and he could be a 0.18. He's gonna get a DUI for sure. But legally, like, you're very intoxicated.
Right.
But he might start experiencing withdrawals when he's at a 0.15. Like, he's still legally intoxicated, and he's starting to experience, like, the shakes, the sweats.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah. And, well, my dad has been drinking since the 70s. Yeah. So I don't think he ever stopped, ever. So.
Yeah. That's scary, especially when someone's been drinking that long to the amounts that they drink. Like, his withdrawals would probably be really bad, where he would need, like, to be, like, in a formal detox center to get through those withdrawals, because he'd need some medications to get him through that, because that's scary.
Well, and he already has health issues on top of all that, so it's just like
I was just gonna ask that. Does he, like, experience, like, arthritis or?
He has arthritis. He had a massive heart attack like 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
But
he's not worried about getting COVID at all these bars, is he?
No, not at all. He doesn't even wear a mask half the time, or if he does, his nose is out, and, like, he does the whole thing. But yeah, no, he's one of those people who's, like, super anti-masks, and yeah, he doesn't. I don't know if he thinks it's like a, fake or something like that, but he he has no regard. But I also like think part of that is like, if he had regard for his life, he would be doing the other things that he does.
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah.
like, I think it's more of a he's just going to do what he wants to do and have fun. And like,
I lived this whole life. I raised 2 kids. I worked really hard. Now is my time to focus on myself, and I'm going to do what I want, and no one's going to tell me otherwise.
right. Yeah. And I don't want to have to wear a mask or do any of that stuff. Like, he just wants to be free completely. And it's like, okay.
Entitlement can lead to a pretty inflated ego and just continue to push that fucking narrative that I deserve to be able to drink whenever I want. I deserve to be able to, enjoy life on my terms and all that shit. It's fucking, it sucks. So I still continue to think that you have to focus on yourself, because people who are affected by addiction can become dependent on that situation, and drag themselves down, and it can become a really vicious cycle, because you start to miss out on life. You're saying that you can't go out with friends because I have to make sure that he's not doing XYZ and all of these things. It can be pretty detrimental.
I've definitely had those like feelings and thoughts and conversations with people. I'm like, I can't, like, what if my dad decides to go out and get wasted? I have to be home in case he absolutely needs a ride home or something like that. So, like,
and do you think a part of it is because your mom's no longer here and this is your living parent, so you want to extra protect them and keep them safe and
interesting,
all that?
I mean, kind of, yeah. And I was like that's one of my arguments with him too. I'm like, I just lost a parent. Like, do you want me to lose another one this quick? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and you're probably still coping with mom passing away and all that. Like, so you want to protect your dad, like, because it's almost like you couldn't protect mom from her health issues. Like,
right.
you couldn't solve that. But I can solve the fact that you're drinking and making these decisions. I can try and do that. That's something that I can see in my hands. I can focus on that. But with mom, it was so hard because her medical, she was so medically complex. You're not a doctor. I can't fix that. I can fix the fact that you're drinking because that's a decision you are making. You're making that choice at this point. Now, I mean, it's an addiction too. Mom didn't necessarily choose to have all these issues.
Sorry, listeners, if you heard me giggle, it's because the dogs are scraping at the door. So
I wonder if, like, unconsciously you're trying to protect dad. Because
I wouldn't even say unconsciously. Yeah. I would say consciously. Like, it's something I've thought about. Like, he is my only remaining parent. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why, like, my brother is so harsh about it. He's like, just get him arrested, like, make him realize the repercussions of the things that he's doing. And I'm just like, but that's our dad, and like, I find a way to, like,
justify. Yeah.
Right. I want to
make
protect
excuses.
him. Yeah. So
yeah.
Definitely, for sure.
This is such a dumb example, but it's one that pops up in my head all the time. There's this episode of Dawson's Creek where that one girl, who's the main girl?
Joey. Did you watch Dawson's Creek?
I did, yeah.
I fucking love it. I've watched
hilarious.
it so many times.
So her dad comes back to town, right?
Oh, that's right. He gets out of prison.
And they find out that he's dealing again. Mm-hmm. And Dawson is the one that gets him in trouble. And
she can't forgive him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
So, like, that's from the addict or codependent perspective. Like, that's the danger, is like the resentment towards others.
So it's like you don't want to get that resentment from your dad.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're still trying to protect him. It's like you're almost parenting your parent. You've switched roles. And it's probably been switched for quite some time.
It completely feels like that. And whenever I talk about it, like, everyone's like, it's like you're his parent. And I was like, yep.
And that can be exhausting and mentally and emotionally, like, you're also trying to deal with things that you went through your childhood, and then now you almost realize you don't have a parent. And then when you hear about other people talking about their parents and all these things that their parents are doing for them, and then you're like, yeah, I'm trying to take care of and not take care of my dad. Like, he's ill. I mean, it's an illness, but, like,
he's, like, functioning
ill. Yeah.
Well, and I've told you this before, but they call it the disease of choice because you choose to use it first, but you have no choice. You have no control over what the substance does to your body after the fact.
Right.
So even if you chose to take that drink, like the way that your midbrain or your like passive functioning controls choose to interpret that is just not up to you. You have no control over that. So,
And you don't come off as an angry person.
did someone just ring the doorbell?
I can't hear anything.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, so you don't come off as an angry person. So do you feel yourself, as this has been going on, like the longer it's been going on, you're developing more anger towards the situation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not an angry person, and that's why like it actually like hurts me to get so angry.
Yeah. I was wondering that. Yeah.
Well, like when you, because not a lot of people are at the point that you're at where you at least have some understanding of addiction. But once you realize that, it feels like you only have so much time. Like you don't know when the bad thing is going to happen. So
Right.
you're like the anticipation. It's like it feels very frantic. It's awful. So I mean that, yeah. You get, so it's like
Like a ticking time bomb. When's this gonna blow? Like when's that?
Well, but I was gonna say like when a parent yells at a kid to get out of the road, they sound angry, but it's because
It's
they
panic,
care.
yeah.
Yeah. So like that.
It's more of a panic angry then. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I was trying to describe. Is like each day you're like, okay, he's here now, but what's gonna happen tonight?
Right. Right.
Do you feel some comfort knowing that bars are closed again for another 4 weeks, or does?
I didn't even think of that, honestly. Like, I've been trying to distance myself so much from the situation that, like, I don't even think I realized that until you guys were talking about it. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. He can't go to bars now, so, yeah.
It's almost like a relief for at least a short period of time. Not saying that he's not going to go drink at his buddy's house. I mean, he's
Right.
still making those choices, but
The bars are closed for sure.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought that they had adjusted the.
Nope.
That
That's
was
the
previous,
first.
yeah.
Oh.
That wasn't working because we're still rising. We're still on the rise, so they shut
Yeah.
things down, like bars and stuff like that down, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
And you can only get curbside
Right.
food.
The takeout.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that makes a difference too. It's not like he's going to Applebee's to get like dinner and drinking there.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's almost worse because, like, if he was just going out to eat and had a drink with his meal or something, he would not be in the problem that he's in. Like,
Yeah.
he goes out with the explicit intent to just drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going out to eat and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eating gets in the way of how much you can fit in there.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Or my favorite is, like, when he was going out to bars and he was drinking, and I would call him, be like, what's going on? Like, where are you? Whatever, check in on him because I am his parent now.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you
he'd be
feel like you've almost taken that role of mom? But not, I mean, obviously
Right,
not
right.
to the extent of like, she obviously
You're-
had more
you're-
control over it, but
You're
yeah.
more
yeah.
caretaker.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like, I do feel like I'm trying to be his parent sometimes because he's making terrible decisions, and, like, I don't want him to do that. But my mom, like, I'm not taking the role that my mom had because she put an end to his, like, partying. She, like, made him stop. I don't know how she did it, but she made him stop. So I don't know. But I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's okay.
No, wait. We'll go. Hold on. When you would call him and be like, where are you at? What are you doing?
Oh yeah, he'll say he'll be like, I had a few drinks, but don't worry, I also had a water. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, that doesn't negate the drinks that you had. And that's his, like, excuse. He's like, I'm sober now because I had a water.
A water.
I'm like, all right. And that's when I start to get angry. I'm just like, do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't know.
It's just hard because it seems like he's so far gone into it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then now I think I got my anxiety putty out because I didn't even think about the whole fact that if he does stop, he's going to have the major withdrawal symptoms. So, like,
Yep.
it's a lose-lose situation at this point. Like, he's either going to die from, like, drunk driving or
Get sick, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Or he could be one of those people too, like a lot of people that they'll just like slowly
Taper themselves off,
themselves, yeah. And there's like I don't recommend it. But there is like, you can look it up online and like how to self-taper yourself off without having to experience those withdrawal symptoms.
Right. No, I know there are ways, but like,
It's just scary. both
right. Like,
sides.
I didn't even think about that part though until you guys mentioned it. I was like, holy shit, that's
Something
like
to-
a real life thing that happens too. I didn't even think.
And I go into school for nursing, like we briefly talked about it, very briefly. And then when I was experiencing it with my family member and they had seizures, and then the doctor was like, these are the only withdrawals that will kill you. Like narcotics, withdrawals aren't going to kill you. You get really sick, but physically, like when they talk about alcohol, it's just like, holy crap. Like I didn't even realize that. And
Right.
it's where it's so scary, where I'm constantly, if that person relapses, I'm constant, like what happened the other day, I'm like, is this person like coming off of alcohol, or are they going through withdrawals where they're so like the delirium that was going on with this person? I'm like, is this person overly tired, or are they delirious to the point where they literally almost ran me over with their vehicle and they couldn't function? We went to Home Depot and we were talking about paint colors, and they kept asking me the same question over and over and over and over again, where I'm like, all right. And then in my medical head, I'm like, are you in some type of encephalopathy delirium from withdrawals, or are you really overly tired from working 5 days in a row and not sleeping, or it's just like, and then I feel like I take that parent role too. And then it becomes so emotionally and mentally exhausting, where I just like, then you want to shut the world out. And I think that's a part of your becoming more of an introvert, is like you want to shut everything out because you're so exhausted from dealing with that person all the time. You don't have anything left in you to give to anybody else.
You know what you just said reminded me of something. So recently, not like a week or two ago, I was talking to my dad, and I've noticed recently he's forgetting things a lot. Like he'll tell me something and then he'll tell me it again, that like not long late after. And like I thought maybe he's just having, like he's getting old, and like I was worried about his, like, what if he's getting Alzheimer's or something like that, like I didn't even think that it could be related to his drinking.
Yeah. Yep.
Big time.
It does. Yep. And that person I talk about, when I asked them, like, do you have any long-term effects from drinking? And they said, my memory, I just can't remember things anymore. And it's
I
just
didn't
like,
even think of that. That's because I was worried about my dad's like
maybe dementia
yeah.
or
right, yeah, like starting to get those signs, and I was like, like scared, like, oh, now we have another thing to worry about. And honestly, it could just be
the amount
drinking.
of alcohol. Yeah, because it affects the amount of the things that it does to your brain.
Right.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the stuff that you start to remember and recall when you do start to sober up. But yeah, there was so much that I would forget. Even when I was in the hospital, I was still forgetting things constantly, and I was terrified that I had like drank myself into like
Permanent memory loss or something like that.
Permanent memory
Yeah.
loss or something. It was.
Do you notice that it's better now? Like now that you've been sober?
Much better.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, or it doesn't take much to recall something. So like, I'll say something, like not realizing that I had said it before or whatever, and someone will start to tell me that I've said it again. I'll go, oh yeah, because I did the thing. Like, not that I'm like trying to make it seem like I remember. Like, I genuinely, like, it'll be like,
It'll
oh
click,
fuck, that's right, I just said that or just did whatever. Whereas before, like when I was in the hospital, yeah, there was just like I couldn't remember if I had taken medications, and yeah, it was not great. I'm trying to remember. I can't even. That's the other weird thing, is like you can't even. I just remember that feeling of like, fuck, I don't know what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks.
Well, yeah, that's like when I was drinking.
to the point of blackout.
That was my thing. Was like if I didn't just drink, it was like I'm gonna drink to the point where I would literally black out, and I would have to call people the next day and be like, "What happened last night?"
And then you have the anxiety of the what did I do or what did I say last night kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what towards the end of when I became sober, right before Chris went in, I had a night. I would when I would go out or when I would drink, I would get to that point. Blacking out, yeah. Sometimes I would black out, and sometimes it was like almost there. And then the next day, I was having panic attacks because it's like, what did I say? What did I do? And I could remember some of the stupid things I did, and I was just so embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. I actually, the first time I remembered, I was like, that I did that. I was 17, and I was like hanging out with some of our mutual friends, I'm pretty sure. And I went to a party, and I blacked out, and like the ride home in the morning was so uncomfortable for me because everybody else remembered what I had done that night, but I did not. Like, it was so uncomfortable. And they joked and they teased me forever about it because, like, the things that I did were just ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah.
But, like, that was my go-to after that. That was just to drink until I was at that point. And then, which does not make sense to me because I hated the feeling afterwards of, like, trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I used to laugh about it. I would laugh at the fact that I don't remember saying something or acting away because in my head I'd be like, oh, that's funny because that's not how I normally act.
Right.
And so I would just be like, I can't. That's weird that like some part of my brain allowed me to say this thing or had that viewpoint rather than being like, oh man, there's a 6-hour window where you don't know what the fuck happened. With your situation, who have you like professionally reached out to?
do you count?
What about have you talked to your therapist?
I'm not currently in therapy right
Okay.
now. I was, but when I was planning on moving, I kind of like ended things, and I wanted to find a new therapist anyway. But
Okay.
yeah, someone who's like maybe more like specified in trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think I've told you this before, but to reach out to a chemical dependency counselor.
I talk to a ton of those every day. I should really just like, but I also don't want to like, you know,
Mix
try and like
Personal
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard. There's such a gray line. I do it all the time at my work.
like,
But I mean, but it is that gray line. I mean, Chris was hospitalized at the hospital I work at. Granted, like HIPAA violation, like I couldn't discuss your case. I mean, I wasn't working when you were in the hospital, and like we didn't really discuss. Like you had to sign ROIs for them to even talk to me. But
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, but to that point though, like they're gonna be professional about it.
Right.
Like
They
they're not.
100%.
They're not gonna like treat you lesser than because because you work there, you're supposed to be better than us or something.
And I was nervous because like my boss, so my director actually did Chris's like intake assessment. That's like my super boss. And I knew Chris was going to be open and tell him all these things. And I always thought like, is my boss, like, is my director going to think differently of me because of what's
Whatever
going on
Chris
with my,
might
what's he
bring up.
experiencing? But one thing that I have noticed is that, and like my director, I'm not trying to, but he like, they respect me a lot. And I feel like it has made me a better employee because I now know I obviously have dealt with like personal stuff of, you know, with mental health. And then having a family member dealing with that, it's like I have it all over the place where I think they look at me now as like I am a person that I'm like more rounded about it, but they are 100% professional about it.
Right. Sorry, that was really awkward. I got
No.
LASIK. Not on
crap.
Friday,
That's
but the
right.
Friday before. So I have
was
to keep
gonna
my
say-
eyes like.
We'll cut away.
All
Don't
right,
you worry
sweet.
about it.
We'll just focus it on me during that.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
You timed it perfectly while Kim's talking to do it that way.
Right, absolutely.
Switch camera angles.
I like
Also,
that you
these
did that.
lights like kind of start to make my eyes water too. So it's
Well, her eyes were
Dry,
eyes were getting
yeah.
dry, so that's why she needed to do the.
But yeah,
I'm
I wish we
saying
had
the
an
lights
answer
don't
for
help.
you, like what
Well,
to do.
I do
and
have an answer.
Okay.
So you have two options, right? You go the route of the legal recourse.
How would you have responded to that if I would have done that with you? I just want to know because, like that time that you were super drunk in the cities and you walked around a bunch
I'm not
and you
saying
drove
it's
home.
a good option.
No, I know, but how would you how would you have responded to me if you knew I did that?
She doesn't have control over how he's going to respond to it.
No, I know. Okay, sorry.
That's so I'm saying
Okay.
that's why I was saying before, like sobriety doesn't mean that he's going to love you. And that's why I brought up I worded that wrong. He's not going to praise you for what you did. Like that Dawson's Creek thing that I brought up. Like, sure, he did
Great
a good
episode.
thing,
Check it out.
but that doesn't mean that she's going to be psyched that her dad got ripped away from her again.
It's true. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying is like,
not
It-
necessarily the best option, but it's
yeah,
one.
it does. Yeah. It does not equal a happy, like the happiest ending possible. So there's the legal route that you can go that shows empirical evidence as to him having a problem, right? So having to go through these legal things. And sometimes that goes up to like 5 DUIs before something happens.
Oh, really?
So it doesn't even mean that.
Well, after the first one, they get charged, and I think they lose their license for 30 days, and then they have to do a course. Sometimes they have to do like a safety course.
So along those lines, I was actually talking to somebody about his drinking and driving, and they were saying that if he were to get a DUI, because his vehicle is paid off, they would impound it.
Oh.
And like you can't get it back. Like they just take your vehicle now. And I don't know like what the rule on that is, but I don't know if that's like a new law or something, but if you straight up own your vehicle, they will take it and you don't get to get it back.
Wow.
But the reason why I said it could be 5 DUIs before something changes is because
Personally for them.
exactly
Okay.
they don't
Right.
they don't view it. They just say, what an asshole that cop was. What a bullshit. Like they make excuses for why the shit is happening. Eventually, it can make a difference, and they're forced to. And then when they're sober for a couple of months, they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to deal with that shit again."
Right.
And it becomes more of an annoyance, and they just don't drink because they're like, I want my car, I want to have my freedom again, da 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 da. And it's like, but even that can create what they call a dry drunk, where they're only sober because they have to be.
Right.
They're not happy about it. They would much rather be drinking. They still like.
So then there's even resentment just there because they're just like super unhappy because they're not doing the thing they want to do.
Yep. Even though they're sober. And they'll like throw that in your face too. Is like, at least I'm not fucking drunk, right? Like you can't be mad at me for that. And
That's what you were like that one week you were sober.
yeah. Not good. And then the other route is kind of a longer game, which is like arming yourself with the knowledge or with the education to be able to be supportive and hopefully gradually get him to realize kind of what's happening with chemical dependency counselors and like Al-Anon meetings. There's so many Oh, Kim, you are a part of a few Facebook groups, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, would you guys recommend, I don't know, just because your personal experiences with it, if I were to see a LADC or something, just because I am, like, I'm not a drunk or anything, but just because then I could, like, maybe arm myself with better tools to help him. Like, if I were to just go regularly see an LADC for just therapy.
So CDC, LADC, that's meaning the same thing.
No, counselors aren't licensed.
This is a licensed alcohol drug.
You can be an what do you call it?
CDC?
A CDC. That's a counselor, a drug counselor. You don't necessarily need to have like a master's and license degree to be.
That's probably a certified drug counselor?
Yes, yeah. So you go through a certification for that. Licensed are actually, they have like their master's degree and all that. So there's a little bit of a difference. A lot of the CDCs are people that have experienced addiction.
Yeah, maybe we have you back on with, because we want to have Missy. We had that LADC on. Maybe we have you guys on at the same time. That would be really nice to like, because then you can right there ask, and then people can come back to this and be like, have real world examples to hopefully help them too.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good idea. But yeah, that would
just let me know.
But yeah, so I mean, but really, those are the only two The third option, which I know you're not going to go for, is to just leave and forget about them. Not the best option. And
I've thought about that one for sure. That's definitely been there. Like,
I feel like the longer it goes on, that's definitely that one sticks out more because because
I'm just fed up
and exhausted.
Yeah.
And
like, I feel like I've kind of already started that with my withdrawal from him. Like, I don't really talk to him anymore, because there was like a catalyst. One day I came home and we parked in the same garage, and his car was parked really messed up. Like he had driven drunk and parked his car and I couldn't even pull in the garage. So like I came in and I screamed at him. And that's the thing is like I'm not reacting well to it. Like I'm aggressive about it, which does not help the situation. And like I screamed at him for a long time that day and like I made him, he was going to come move his car. I was like, absolutely not. You're not getting in that car. Give me your keys. And like I was really, really mean to him. So.
But I mean, we've said it a couple of times, but like that whole resentment thing, you're basically experiencing microaggressions every single day. It's going to build up and fizzle over like that. That's totally understandable. Is there anything that you do currently that like quells the anxiety of that situation? Like when you think about your dad or what he's doing right now, is there anything that has helped you?
I don't think so. I know that like there are times where he's fine and it's because so he has an on again, off again relationship with someone. And when they're on again, he drinks a lot less. So like part of me, because she doesn't drink all that much. And so like part of me is just like constantly hoping that they're okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be the only time I'm like my anxiety is kind of like lower about the whole situation. But I just have really bad anxiety to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just constantly anxious about it.
Sure. You're a Chihuahua.
Yes.
Fuck. This is tough because normally we have like some type of happy end, but this is the real fucking shit. Like I've said it on here a bunch of times. That whole sobriety doesn't equal happy relationship afterwards. Like there's not always going to be a happy ending to these episodes, and there's work to be done. And like I hope, listeners, like if you have advice or anything that helped you, please feel free to email that in, message our Facebook page, or you can join the Facebook group, which is the Not So Anonymous Alcoholic. I created it like so that people could talk in there, but it hasn't been a whole lot.
Hasn't taken off.
Hasn't taken off quite yet. But man, I would love it if people got in there and were able to talk with each other and support each other. And I know that more than anything, that's what you need is people in your corner, because it's maddening to have these conversations with somebody and them like not giving any ground at all, and you're just left with yourself. So I hope you know that we support you and we want to be there for you as much as we can. And I hope that you know that your friends are as insanely supportive as well.
Absolutely. That's why I reached out to you like the few times I have, because I know that you are wise in this, in maybe not completely wise, like you don't know everything about it, but you have your experience and things you've learned since. So
yeah, it's I just said this a couple of weeks ago, but like we used to say that we were glad that we had been through the shit that we'd been through on a relationship level, because then we could help people in their relationships. This is like the first real thing that I'm glad that I've been through this, because it's actually helpful towards people's lives. Like relationships come and go and it's whatever, like you're gonna survive, but like alcoholism, drug addiction, you might not fucking make it. So like I'm glad that I've been through what I've been through to be able to hopefully help people. And yeah, Kim Duke, thoughts?
I think I'm out.
Checked out?
No, I have no thoughts left.
Oh, okay. If you or a loved one are struggling, obviously the main one, you can go to aa.org. That's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Smart Recovery is another one.
Smart Recovery I've stopped promoting because they have some questionable, it depends on which meeting you go to, because they're kind of like, because Alcoholics Anonymous isn't technically an organization, and it's all like based on the group. Smart Recovery has like a plan where they'll help you learn how to use responsibly.
Oh, never mind. Okay. That's
So
fine.
yeah,
Edit that out there, champ.
I'll leave it in because because atheists, like, that's one that gets thrown at us a lot is smart recovery, and it's like, this is a bad idea. You're playing with fire by thinking that you can go from drinking and driving, and then it's like, oh, cool, I'm just gonna have a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's good. And obviously you can go to betterhelp.com/DDGD. You can be paired with one of, or
4,000.
many, actually 13,000 now.
Wow.
Their numbers have gone up massively. So you have so many options
For licensed therapists.
for a licensed therapist or counselor, like the LADC, like Joby was talking about. There's just tons and tons of options, and pair you to your specific needs. Support the podcast by supporting your mental health. And as always, you can absolutely reach out to us, whether it's if you're a friend and you just so happen to be a listener, and you can contact Kim or myself. Otherwise, duckduckgrayduke@gmail.com, duckduckgrayduke on Facebook, and obviously the Not So Anonymous Alcoholic Facebook group as well.
Duck Duck Duke on Instagram as well.
Yep. Duck Duck Grayduke on all the things. Hopefully I'm going to be able to, I just found out that we can hopefully make our own RSS feed, so there will be just a straight up the Not So Anonymous Alcoholic channel. People don't have to get confused about all the bullshit. Anyways.
You guys need to get on TikTok.
You know, we keep
People
hearing
keep
that.
talking about that, yeah.
Do you TikTok?
I do.
Okay, maybe you can help us then.
Okay.
Layla can help us. She's a TikTok. She's a master. I just learned how to wear a purse as a backpack from TikTok. My friend.
Oh, I saw that one where you flip it over your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched somebody try to do it, and the thing's too short, so they're just like, ugh.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I love you.
I love you.
I don't know if you know how this show ends, Joe.
Well, I love you guys too.
We love you
Oh,
too.
good.
So
That's funny. I was gonna say I love you, but I didn't know if it would make you feel weird because I told
Chris,
Mara that
I believe
loved her.
I
and-
believe that you should tell your friends that you love
That's
them.
what Chris strongly believes that too, especially in the world we live in. We don't know what tomorrow has to bring, and Chris is Chris was a big hugger before, not so much obviously because COVID,
But I do tell people that I love them.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it weirds
I'm-
people out sometimes.
Like
I'm weird. Like, bring it on.
Yeah,
is what I
we're
say.
weird.
the first time I told Mara, she was leaving, and I go, "All right, bye, I love you." She goes, "Okay."
She should be used to that by now because I still tell her every day that I love her.
She said it one time, and I was like, "Yeah!" I was so excited.
When her and I broke up, like, I still never stopped saying I love you because I did love her. I still do love her. So
Yeah. Well, we need to have you back on.
Duck Duck Radio.
Yeah, Duck Duck Grayduke, so we can talk about more things because there's a lot to
There's a lot to unfold with you.
Javiathan.
This is just a part of it.
Jabiathan. No one has called me that in so long. You are the only person who's called me that.
It's a fun one.
It is, yeah.
All right. Well, Kim Duke. And with that, we will pass.